test lead guy didn't think that I had the qualities to go fast enough, which we proved wrong later. But he came in, he says, I think the bloody thing is on fire. And it was this, the exhaust was so hot, it was burning the insulation in the side pods. But it was smoking and hot. And so, you know, it was just evolution stuff that had to be done. And, you know, that lasted a long time. The heat was, you know, I remember racing in Texas, and we actually cut styrofoam cups apart and put them inside our shoes to insulate our foot from the 210-degree gas pedal. But the first time we drove it, it was just, you know, basically finding out what we felt it needed to go to the next step. And we moved on to other tracks, and we drove it at a lot of different tracks. It was actually a fairly well-handling car by the time, as a matter of fact, it almost raced in the 24 Hours of Daytona because it was faster than the race cars that came with the team. The test car was the fastest of the three, so that was pretty much fun. I think probably one of the big stories that people remember in the development was Neil called me up and said, hey, we'd like you to drive this car. It has an exceptional problem of Road Atlanta. This was when Road Atlanta was the old Road Atlanta that didn't have turn 10 and 11. And just had a big dip before you went up to the bridge. And it was changing lanes at 175 miles an hour. And you would go from the far right to the far left. And we ended up taking, and at that time it had two byway back. And we took one of them off, and we gained 7 miles an hour, and the front end stayed on the ground. And I don't remember what we were testing at the time, but they said, we want you to give us meter readings when you get on the back straightaway. And the test car had gauges down by the shifter. And so I came on the back straightaway, and the lap before I had seen this big bird on the side of the track, and it took off. And when I came back to the back straightaway, the next, you know, whatever it was, a minute and 20-some seconds later, they asked me to, give me the gauge readings. And while I was doing that, I'm assuming it was the same bird, swooped in front of the car, and windshield broke. Part of the bird was in the car, part of the bird was out of the car. And the funny part about it was Francois Castaigne had flown in on a corporate jet and wanted to watch the car go around the track, and we made it 1.5 laps, and I came in, and I remember calling in, and I said, hey, we've got a partner. And he said, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, there's part of an animal inside my car. And we got in there, and a big hole in the windshield, and the spare windshield was an hour away at the race shop, because when's the last time you needed a windshield for a race car? So Francois got to see like 1.5 laps of me going around the track. But, we progressed from there into a very fun car to drive, and there was a lot of stories like that that happened. And we got the windshield replaced and finished the test. We went to Charlotte about a month or so later, and I'm going around the track, I'm going around the banking, and there's this big bird up on the wall. I said, he's back. I said, what do you mean? I said, there's a big bird on the wall, I'm going to come in before he hits us. So that was cool, and they think, from what I've heard over the years, is that the hot running into the windshield, when they put the new one in, it wasn't properly sealed properly when they put it in. Back then it was glued to the car. And I was testing at the Chrysler proving grounds, and I got going on the long straightaway, and the windshield separated, and it blew the roof off. And when the roof was being pulled off, it pulled the car up in the air, spun me into a 360, and I ended up going backwards down the track. And when I stopped, I said, well, we got a problem. And I said, what's wrong? I said, we need a new roof, and I need a new pair of pants. They found the roof, came back to where I was, and they put it back on, and we finished the test. They taped it up and glued it. And we had a lot of weird days like that testing, because we always had something new. And I'll leave it at that. You guys can send me another question. I can hear you, by the way.
Well, thank you, Tom. That was great. So we said we were trying to make this race car that Tommy was experiencing all these wonderful events in, but bring things from the street car and improve it. And if you look closely at these two cars, you'll see a number of differences. Some things you'll recognize right from the production car, but for example, the side mirrors. If you look at the white car over there, P1, it's got mirrors, which Ken Noah can tell us where they came from. But if you look at the chassis 7 over here that won at Le Mans, they're different, although familiar. So Ken, you can explain maybe how you used your expertise to bring some of these different production parts to the race car and why they were beneficial and how they came to be.
Well, everybody on the team is kind of has the mandate to win the race. So every part on the car is involved in racing, and every part on the car is scrutinized for function and for weight savings and for just the application to the vehicle. Those mirrors on the 97 car, formerly the 5 car, are the production Viper outside rearview mirrors. And those came from the Dodge Stealth. And they were the powered version of the Dodge Stealth mirror, because up until the coupe, we were given the mandate to keep manual outside mirrors in the Viper, just in keeping with the bare bones, raw sports car theme. I actually had to take the motors out of the production Stealth mirrors to put them on the production Roadster. One day I was walking through the shop, just thinking, you're always thinking, and I picked up the mirrors from the Prowler. I said, wow, these are light. And I weighed them both, and I think it was about a 7-pound per mirror difference between what we had on the Prowler and what we had on the race car. So I carried the Prowler mirror over to one of the designers. I don't know if it was Ray, but I asked them to machine the base of the Prowler mirror so that it fit the contour of the GTS-R door and saved about 14 pounds a car. And that's what's on the car that won Le Mans. You don't save 14 pounds on a race car because everybody is chasing weight in every way, shape, and form. You save an ounce or two at a time. Every part we put on the car that came back from Oreca, for example, had holes drilled in it. I can't think of anything that came back from them that didn't have holes drilled in it. But they knew how to make the car lighter. And as a bonus, those mirrors are also more aerodynamic. And nobody realized we'd made the change when we went back to Le Mans, so I didn't say anything.
Thanks, Ken. And it's interesting, you go through all these small changes. They're looking for grams, ounces, and in this case, pounds. And testing the daylights out of this car for more than 24 hours at a time. And now Le Mans approaching, and they have all this work into it. And we're going to ask Mr. Myers to tell us a story about the car that won Le Mans the first time. At the final shakedown test, a week before the race, what happened?
So, about a week before the race, we would do a rebuild of each of the cars, preparing for practice at Le Mans, and run a shakedown test at Boulder Card Circuit, which was very close to the Oreca shops. And that particular car was the third of 3 going to the race. The first 2 were brand new cars, and this was from 97 carried over into 98. So it's getting a shakedown test, and a problem developed with retention of the injectors to the intake manifold going down the longest straight. So the injectors actually popped up out of position and began to spray that wonderful Euro 98 super gasoline onto the headers. So I'm in England at the time, getting on an airplane at a supplier, and getting on an airplane, and I get a phone call from Oreca, and the first words were, "We've had a fear." I'm like, fear. What, say that again? We've had a fear. I don't understand. We've had a flambe extraordinaire. Oh, okay. What car? Whole thing, right? So I'm in the air. The car basically burned to the ground, to the back wheels, center line of the back wheels, right to the ground. Couldn't put the fire out. Huge fire. Fuel pumps running, lots of fuel pumps. And so I get to Oreca, and here's this burned out Hulk, okay? and like, we're supposed to be on a truck in 24 hours here. Each car had 8 mechanics, and they rearranged the schedule into a 24-hour cycle, and they basically stripped that car and repainted it, repainted the chassis, put all new bodywork, all new parts, because fortunately we were financed well enough and had learned enough in prototype racing and in endurance racing. You have to have spares, lots of spares. So in 24 hours, that car got loaded on a truck, race ready. We go to Le Mans, take it out for a first shakedown. The power steering was a little light. They rebled the brakes, rebled the power steering, and I could only tell there was a little bit of fire extinguishing left behind the seat. And I think we put it on the front row in qualifying. Yeah. So that's when a whole team is focused on a single goal with the appropriate passion for young guys like Gene and old guys, older guys, this guy, that guy over there. There was when I first went to work there, and I had come in from outside the Viper group, right? So there's Roy's desk, and on the wall behind it was a motto written. It was called "Make It Happen," and that's what we did. We made it happen every single day.
Well, thank you. And to me, it's just crazy to think, when you look at that car, it won the most grueling sports car race in the world, and was literally burnt to a crisp a week before. It's pretty amazing that they were able to pull that off. With Spirit, like you see in the photo here, it didn't seem like they had a bad time at work either. I should have mentioned earlier that, a lot of times people are familiar with Oreca because when the team started winning everything, they were working with Oreca at the track. But behind the scenes, there were a lot of other contributors here in the United States, including J&P Motorsport down in Norcross, Georgia. Kanaska Southwind was the first team to race the cars out of Birmingham, Alabama. Reynard in the United Kingdom made the lightweight carbon fiber bodywork, and then a lot of testing was done throughout the United States in Ohio and Arizona, the Chelsea Proving Grounds, and then you had Caldwell Development, who handled the factory engine program in Vista, California. So there's a lot of late credit that's given to Oreca, and they were a key partner, but the car really was developed, especially in the early years here in the United States, with companies here in the United States and people at Chrysler. I guess at this point, we get some questions in the audience. Anyone should? I'll try to run a microphone back to you.